said, welcome back. Was because in the teachings of Tenrikyo, it is explained that human beings were created in this place. Can you see the wooden pillar standing right in the center of the Tenrikyo main sanctuary? That pillar marks the place where human beings were created. And that's why whenever people come to Tenri or come to this main sanctuary, we Tenrikyo followers say welcome back instead of saying welcome to instead of. So that's the reason why I started the tour with the greeting saying welcome back. And that place also is a place where God, Tenrikyo's God, deity, resides. And that is why if you see around the main sanctuary, people facing towards that center and do the services or pay respects just like we did by clapping hands 4 times and bow, 4 times and bow. So even outside the main sanctuary, and even outside Japan, whenever Tenrikyo followers try to make prayers, they try to find the direction of this place and try to face that direction before they clap hands and make prayers. So that is the very significant place. And because God resides there, Tenrikyo's most important rite, which is the service for universal salvation, is performed. And the service for universal salvation is performed by 10 chosen performers. And what they do is they sing and also they dance around the main center, the jiba. The place is called the jiba, by the way. And around that place there are 10 performers of the dance and sing. Actually, they sing as well, wearing the ritual masks. And some masks are like a lion masks, and some are different from others. But personally, I haven't really seen the actual one, so I can't really describe what it's like. However, I have seen there are several versions of the masks. When the masks become old, then they replace with the new one. And every once in a while, there's an exhibition for those kagura masks. Those masks are called kagura masks, and it doesn't happen quite often. When I saw it, that was like 20 years ago, I believe so. So it happens only once in a while. So I can't really describe what it's like, but it's like a mask which stands for the workings of God. And Tenrikyo God's workings are kind of explained in 10 ways, and each workings bears the name of the sacred terms and stuff. But I skipped that part because it's really hard to remember the 10 Japanese terms. So I just jump into the core part of the teachings. Because Tenrikyo followers are taught that human beings were created by God, and not only just being created, but also God has been protecting human beings. So whenever Tenrikyo followers pay respect to God, they say thank you. Basically, we only show our sense of gratitude during the prayer, because that is the very center of our faith. So if you go to some other like a Shinto shrine, or I'm not so sure in the Buddhist temples, but sometimes people go there to make some wishes, like please let me pass the exam, or score good for the exam of the Elizabeth Sensei's class and something like that. But in Tenrikyo churches or Tenrikyo main sanctuary, we basically do not make wish for our own desire. So we don't come here to win the lottery or earn lots of money or getting married with a beautiful woman or handsome man. So this teaching is basically it's like encourage people to say thank you to God. And maybe you wonder why God does nothing for us, especially for those who do not believe in Tenrikyo. Why still we are asked to pay respect to God and asked to say thank you to God? I don't care. I don't understand it. And I can totally understand why you think like that. But allow me to share with you some of the teachings of Tenrikyo. When God created human beings, God created humans as a child, children of God. So the relationship between God and human are like parent and child. So in these teachings, we refer God as the parent as well. So our God's divine name is Tenryo no Mikoto, which is really Japanese. So in English, we use another term, which is God the parent, God the parent. So that's how we call God in these teachings. And when God created human beings, God created, I think this is my understanding, when God created our existence. But our existence itself does not allow us to live on the earth. So God lent us the body. And only our mind is belonging to us. So the body, physical body, whatever you see, like your hands and legs, all body parts and body itself is something that we are borrowing from God and something that God lent us. So every day, Tenrikyo followers think that because we are borrowing the body, we are kept alive by God the parent. And body is not something that you can like rent the movies and stuff. If you rent the movie, it's just a movie itself. But our body is equipped with the very wonderful functions that kept us alive. Like even like the workings of the heartbeat. Human consciousness cannot really control the heartbeat. Or once you eat something, you do not really order your stomach to digest your food. So our body is equipped with the very wonderful functions, and that functions cannot be achieved by the power or the knowledge of human beings. So in the teachings of Tenrikyo, we are explained like it's all workings of God. So just by simply living every day, we can feel the workings of God. So once you can feel God's workings, then it is not so hard to say thank you to God every day. So that's like a basic idea of the Tenrikyo teachings. And as I mentioned earlier, the mind belongs to us. Our body is belonging to God. So let's say our body is okay, but sometimes, as you may experience, sometimes hardships and difficult moments appears in our life. And how could that happen? That is because our mind is not our mind is ours. That's because our mind is not really belonging to God. Because our mind is ours, our mind is not perfect. And our body is perfect, but our mind is not perfect. So something bad could happen, and everything appears, and that is not so nice to us. Then Tenrikyo teachings say that it's because of the mind that you have. So in the teachings of Tenrikyo, the way of using the mind is very important. According to the state of our mind, our body functions well or worse. And also, depending on how you use mind, things happen in a way that you wish or you do not wish. And all is the result of how we use our mind. That is like the teachings of Tenrikyo. And once you learn how to use your mind in a way that is in accord with the teachings, or actually let's say intention of God, then your body is blessed with wonderful health, and also your life is full of fortunes and nice things. So, and by learning how to use the mind in a proper way, we are promised to be able to live in the world called the joyousness, the joyous life world, in which human beings are all like nice and help one another, and also we can live nicely. That's like a state of the world that Tenrikyo people are trying to achieve. So sometimes you may hear that the Tenrikyo is the teachings to pursue the path that leads us human beings to the joyous life. And the term joyous life is very vague. So sometimes people may think that, oh, joyous life, so everyone just having fun and joy, and is that the world? That's nice. But joy is a very kind of difficult term to determine, and the value of joy is maybe different from person to person. But at least in these teachings, joy is not something that one can just have fun and good time. If it's sometimes like only one person have good things and some others having some hard times or difficulties, then that kind of the state is not the world of the joyousness. Rather, the world of joyousness in Tenrikyo teaching stresses is that the world that everyone can have fun and joy. And how could it possible? By helping one another. So Tenrikyo teachings, you can call it as the teachings to find a way to realize the mutual help. And by so doing, Tenrikyo followers are trying very hard to make this world a better place. So let's say in the teachings of Tenrikyo, we do not believe heaven or hell, because everything is in this world. And if you see the heaven, then that's gotta be this world. And if you see the hell, then that's also in this world. And it's all depending on how we use our mind. So that's the teachings of Tenrikyo. And maybe you are interested in some other architectural decorations and stuff, but I'm not so good at explaining those. So if you have any questions, then please raise your hand. Or if you have any question about my explanation or anything else that attracts your interest, then please ask me now. Yes.
So if God lends you a body, then when that body dies, what happens?
Okay, very good question. We are taught that our soul exists eternally, so it never, disappears. But our body, just like you said, we sometimes pass away. Sometime, or sooner or later, everyone pass away. And in Tenrikyo teachings, passing away is like an action or the intersection, or how to say, it's just a moment to move on to the next step.
Transformation.
Yeah. And our body, once we return it, then we are allowed to have another in the next life. So we believe that our soul experiences many lives throughout the history. Yeah.
What about the new souls? Where are they created?
Souls. Okay. Okay. With regard to the soul, I never seen it, so I can't really explain very well. But I'll do my best. In Tenrikyo teachings, as I mentioned earlier, it exists eternally, but it does not have the mind unless it's put inside the body. So mind and soul are different in these teachings. If it's just a soul, then it's just something that just simply exists. But once it's put in the body, then Tenrikyo teachings say that now this soul can think and say something. And once the body disappears or returns to the God, then the soul is taken out of the body and the mind disappears. So that's why in Tenrikyo teachings we do not remember so much from the previous life, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next. But that's how soul transferred to the next body to another. And in the very beginning, Tenrikyo teachings said that in the beginning, the world was a muddy ocean.
Was a what?
And God thought that the state of the muddy ocean is very boring, tasteless. So God decided to create human beings to see us live the joyous life. And that's actually the motivation to create the human beings. And in the beginning, it said that 900,000 something something. Really recite the exact number, but God gave birth to certain amount of the souls, which is much less than today's population, like 6 billions and stuff, much less than that. But in the beginning, God gave to like, let's say, close to 1 billion souls were given the bodies. So that's how the world started with. But in the story of creation in Tenrikyo, it does not really say that where else there could be more souls, but God did not give birth to. So could be one, and also in the Tenrikyo teachings, once the person passes away, then the soul go back to the bosom of God and wait another moment to come to borrow the body. And we never really know when that happens, but it's all up to the intention of God, and God chooses the time and the place where the soul should be coming back to this world. So it's really difficult to say how many souls are actually created by God in the beginning, but at least close to 1 billion souls were given the bodies to exist in this world, and those descendants or something is now what we are now.
So does it say that the other souls came from another source, or that the original souls have like split to accommodate the 6 billion people?
Okay, we don't think that the soul split. The soul is just a soul itself. And I kind of hesitate. It's kind of hard to say, but it does not really no mention to the teachings about the soul, because you can say certain things, but you cannot really prove it. And it's the same is true to the explanation of the teachings. Like Tenrikyo have like 3 divine scriptures, but some are written in really old Japanese style, and sometimes it's like just a record of the spoken words, and really difficult to decipher, even in Japanese. So there might be explanation of it in some parts of it, but nothing is really proved that it's definitely correct. So, and also in the teachings of Tenrikyo, as I mentioned, the soul exists eternally, and once the soul put into the body, it can maybe activate the function of the mind. But if we use the mind in a wrong way, like in Tenrikyo, we say if you use the mind in a selfish way, self-centered way, then it actually make your soul not nice condition. Put your soul in a bad condition if you use the mind selfishly. And this bad condition does not be like a cancelled once you lose the body. Rather, those like a state of the mind, kind of dirty state of the mind, continues on to the next life. And that is probably one of the reasons I think that soul does not split. It's like just one soul, and for that soul, this continues on, and it does not really split.
So you believe in a kind of karma, right? Like
Karma, but I'm not so sure about what the karma is exactly about. But Tenrikyo teachings, we always have a chance to cancel the karma or the bad condition of the soul.
by doing what?
By helping others. In Tenrikyo teachings, helping others is highly recommended and put so much value on it, because by simply helping others, we are taught that we can keep our mind clean. So that's how, for your information.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something about what all the people are doing
Huh?
in this room?
Oh, at this moment? Oh, okay. I was thinking to say that in the next place, but if you look behind, there are a group of people, and maybe one person is trying to make a prayer service towards the person who are suffering from illness. Now the guy facing like back to us is the person who are making a prayer, and the lady who are holding her hands put together in front of her chest was the person who was suffering from illness. In Tenrikyo teachings, once you go through certain procedures, you are allowed to make a personal prayers to ask God for the cure of the sick people. And prayers, through that prayer service, we can actually realize the save others from illness. So, and the person who receives the prayer does not have to be Tenrikyo faith. Whoever wishes to be saved from illness can ask anybody who are eligible to do the prayer service. And actually, I can do that. So if you have, some problems, then I can make a prayer too. Yeah. Okay. The old person behind us is just doing the hand movements, and those are called a seated service. And during the daytime, or actually anywhere and anytime, you can do this hand dance anywhere and anytime. And but actually, that's one of the most popular way to offer your prayer to God the Parent at the worship hall. So it's kind of rare to see that kind of a service outside the building. Of course, sometimes people do that, but usually that can be done in the worship hall. And in the morning and the evening, there are daily services. And during those services, that seated service is performed as well.
Do people come here like every day?
Every day.
Do you come every day?
I live in the church actually, so I do that in my church. So I try to come here every day as much as possible since it's the main sanctuary. So it's very significant to me, but sometimes it's really hard. So when that happens, people just do it at their home shrine or the church nearby their neighborhood. Sorry. Okay. There are like so many versions of the like a prayer songs, but for the seated service, there are 3 kinds of the service combined together for the seated service. And the first prayer, they say, I show you with the hand movements because it's easier to understand. First, we say ashiki o harote. Ashiki is something evil, and that we believe that accumulates in the mind. And that somehow Tenrikyo people believe that mind is existing somewhere here. So ashiki is evil. Ashiki o harote means sweep away. Sweep away. This is like asking God to sweep away something evil from your mind. Then tasuke tamae means please save me. Tasuke tamae. I don't know the connection of the hand movements, but this is a pressing, then turning. This is the hand gesture to receive the blessings of God. So please sweep away the evils and save me. And this last word is the name of God. Tenrikyo March. That's the divine name. And that's the first set of the seated service. Second set is a little bit long and a little bit hard to explain. So I sum it up. And second seated service is the story of creation. How God created human beings, and God created that representing heaven and earth. God created husband and wife, and that's how the world started. So I skipped the story of creation, but in the very beginning we are taught that there is husband and wife. So in Tenrikyo teachings, the very smallest unit of the society is husband and wife. Then the last part of the seated service sing about the wooden pillar standing over there. in the teachings of Tenrikyo, it is said that once the world becomes joyous life world, then the pillar will work as the stand to receive the heavenly dew. We don't know what the heavenly dew is, but once we receive the heavenly dew, then we are allowed to live up to 115 without weakening or getting old. That's kind of magic things. But that's the last third part of the Sacred Service.
Wait, there is a heaven or there's not a heaven?
There's no heaven. Like what I meant is like heaven. Once, if you hear heaven in the like a Christianity, then that's like another world, right? But in these teachings, when I say heaven, then this world is a heaven. So even if I say heavenly dew, it's not something that it comes from another world, but rather that's the dew probably appears in this world. Kind of hard to say, but sorry, we started this phase from Japan. So when we translate the terms into English, then we borrow so many words from Christianity. So sometimes we mention church, but if you go to visit like a local church of Tenrikyo, it does not look like the church like you see in the States or other countries. So kind of confusing thing is, is because of the, the program in the term.
Is there any focus on like people's interactions with like the environment and nature, or is it always just like person to person joy?
Like environmental issues.
Well, like, yeah, I guess, but like just something besides person to person.
Like helping nature?
Yeah.
Helping nature instead
To help
of
the nature
yeah.
and stuff.
Is that a good thing?
Yes, it is, but it's kind of long run. I guess, like you said, the focus is on the humans in these teachings, and helping nature is good because that helps humans, I guess. So, yeah, and if some ill condition appears in the environment where people lives, then we encourage people to change the way of using the mind. But it does not necessarily mean that we kind of positively try to save the wild nature or anything. Maybe we don't really focus on that field.
So animals and plants, they are living things. Do they have souls? Do
Yeah.
Tenri created
Yeah.
them too?
Yeah, God created human beings, and in the beginning, there's a mention that close to the billion number of the humans were given birth to in the beginning, but it does not say what kind of the shape they were. And after repeating the births and the rebirths, they took the form of animals and insects and those a different shape of the creatures. So we went through those stages, then finally become the human beings like how we look like now. So
What waterfall are you?
west.
Does that mean a human can be reborn as an animal?
There is a mention to it. There is no proven fact that someone reborn as a different animals, but there is a one verse in the scripture that if you do not replace the way of your mind, then you could be born as horses or cows. But it's kind of really hard to prove that that's correct or wrong. And in my understanding, this is my personal idea, but humans, to become human is really a high status, in the world of soul, I believe. So it's really difficult to drop back to the animals. So I believe that once someone passes away, then come back to this life as a human as well. That's what I believe.
So how does the healing work? Do you the healing you were just doing? Does it do you believe that the body gets sick because the mind is not clear of dust?
Oh yeah. Very good. Okay. any ill condition on human body, we are believing that it's because of the result of the usage of the mind. And selfish way of using the mind is referred to as dust in Tenrikyo teachings. So the action that I showed earlier, this sweep away, is actually sweeping the dust away from your mind. Then save us. That's the prayer to God. And sweeping away the dust sounds really easy, but it's actually the workings of God who can sweep the dust away. That's not the humans. So although we are making a healing prayer, you are not like a main drive of the healing. Rather, God get into the body of the prayer of the person who are making prayer and work through that person who are making prayer. So in that sense, healing works through the prayer's body, but actually it is the functioning, actually the workings of God.
So you're basically asking God to heal that person.
Yeah, but if you say so, then it sounds very reasonable, too reasonable. No matter how bad you are, you can just simply ask God to save me, then God save us. But in Tenrikyo teachings, at the same time asking God for the cure, but also you need to work hard to improve the state of the mind of the person who is suffering from illness. And also the person who make a prayer, that person also have to maintain the mind in a good state, because God, of course, got into the body of a person who making a prayer. But if that person's mind is kind of dirty and kind of not so well conditioned, then God says that it's really difficult to maneuver that dirty mind. I prefer the clean mind. So both who make a prayer and also receive the prayer, both people has to maintain the mind in a good condition. And if the condition is not so good, then gotta make efforts to make your mind in a better condition. And that's why after the healing prayer, there's always a session to convey the teachings. And the purpose of conveying the teachings is because by learning the teachings, people can learn how to control the mind in a better way, which brings about the mutual health of human beings, and eventually that leads us to the joyous life. So that's how the healing works.
Is there any conflicts in interpreting the teachings? Like, are there different major variations in the interpretation?
Interpretation and translation?
Not necessarily language translation, but do different people interpret the things to mean different things?
Okay. Tenrikyo Church headquarters have the translation section, which actually takes care of the translating the teachings into another languages. And English is one of the section, and I belong to it. And so there's an official translation of the teachings admitted by the church headquarters. So that's basically the words for the translation that I am using now.
But how they're taught, do people teach them in different ways?
Yeah, of course. So if you go to other countries, in the United States or some other countries, then those people use the different terms to refer to the same things. And sometimes it confuses people, but I don't know, we don't really face the major difficulties because of that.
The one example I can think of is you're saying that creation starts with men and women. So then as far as homosexuality, do some say that homosexuality is wrong or gives you a dirty mind, and then some say that it's okay?
Yeah, exactly. There is actually controversial opinions And that's something that Tenrikyo teachings has to, let's say, tackle to find a better way to explain what that condition is about. Yeah, because Tenrikyo came into existence toward the end of the Edo period, which is like toward the end of the 19th century. And back then, people are not facing those problems. So there's no mention to like homosexuality or some other transfusion problems or some other kind of modern ill condition or like a not so popular condition of the people. But Tenrikyo believes that by nature humans are created by God and all children of God, and there's no evil in whatever happens to us, in this world. So we probably need to find the answer by like maybe studying harder how to apply the teachings to those problems. And that's some areas that we are currently trying to work on but haven't reached the answer to.
Are you raised in Tenrikyo? Like where your parents?
Yes, I'm actually in the 5th generation. So my great grandpa's dad started to follow the faith, and he will be the 6th generation. So my church itself has almost close to actually over a century history of over a century. So clearly. Okay. By nature, for example, if you just close all the doors and windows in the room and just leave the room as it is for like 10 days, 20 days, a month, then do you think the room stays clean? Maybe a little thin layer of dust piles up on the floor, and if you don't clean it and just leave it like that, then it becomes a stain. And the same is true to the mind. Our mind never be completely free from the dust. So no matter how hard you try to clean your mind and you say, okay, I'm totally free from the dust of mind, but actually it's not. So no matter how hard as humans think that I'm clean, the mind itself is maybe to some extent it's not completely clean. So it's just a matter of the extent how clean your mind is. And maybe the like mentally challenged people, like as you mentioned, maybe they cannot think rationally sometimes, but that's probably the certain extent that they can use their mind. And cleaning the mind doesn't have to be like cleaning the mind does not have to be done because you believe so or because you think so. This is my extreme example, but for example, my son, he's 10 years old, and sometimes I ask him to clean the room or clean the public area, and sometimes he complains about it. I don't want to do it, Dad. I don't want to clean your room, or I don't want to clean your car, but I make him do it anyway. And he thinks that it means nothing, and he complains about it and does it. But by so doing, Tenrikyo parents believe that I am cleaning your mind. So the same thing can be applied to those who cannot really understand what's going on or what we are doing here. So that's one of the ways to explain.
Like some big groups, like are they all together? Like if they come from the same church, are they coming together?
Yeah. Actually, they are the students of the some course to study the teaching in this city, and there are like a spiritual development course. It's called a shuyoka in Japanese term. But people come here and stay for 3 months and learn the teachings and actually learn how to practice the teachings as well. And those people are gathered from different churches as well, but they belong to the same term, So, and now it is actually around the time that they clean the bee sanctuary, so that's why they are gathering there to make a prayer as well.
How many people at one time do that?
It depends. There's no limit to the maximum number to it, but usually it's between like 80 to 200, something like that. And also there are months that there are more students, and like when it's cold, it's kind of hard.
What is your view of the other religions like Buddhism and Shinto?
Okay. Tenrikyo faith believe that that's the ultimate teachings, but it does not mean that we are the best. We believe that our teaching is something that God taught us to live the joyous life, and that's the best teachings to realize the world of joyousness. And other teachings appeared before Tenrikyo faith. We believe that God gave those teachings to help human beings to grow spiritually step by step. So in other words, we believe that other old religions are like our predecessors. So we pay respect to those faiths as well. According to the level of the development, those teachings are given from God, and people believe in. Actually, I think throughout the history, the role of the religion, of course, sometimes it resulted in a sad event, but in other sense, it also served well to become like a better humans, I believe. So in that sense, Tenrikyo people pay respect to the Buddhist people and also Shinto people and also some other religions as well.
So at a certain age, when your son will start, or did it do your practice?
Tenrikyo teachings actually do not really have a certain definitions how to become followers. So even though he was born as my son, he could choose other religion as well if he wished to. And we have no intention to force people to believe in this faith. So, but one thing, as maybe you saw earlier, that making personal prayers, when you are given those permissions to make those prayers, you need to make a pledge to God, the parents, that I believe in you. So you can say that once you go through those steps, you could say that I am a follower of Tenrikyo. That kind of working as like an initiation to become a follower.
Later become people in charge. How are we confused? How do you do that?
How people become a priest in this case, becoming like a pastor or a minister is not so hard. There are like several courses, like the course I explained earlier, 3 months course is one of them. And after this, there are 2 more courses. Those are like 2 weeks or the 3 weeks things. And once you go through those, then you have like a certificate that you can become a minister. And if you wish to become a church head minister, then you need to have a church. And in Tenrikyo teachings, church is not something that you can establish because you wish to. Instead, you need to have certain amounts of the followers of the faith around you and ask them to establish a church as well. So I cannot really say how long it takes, but there are there are procedures that whoever can become a minister. Those of the ministers as well, and they are from the churches, bigger churches, and also some of them are like descendants of the earlier followers. When our founders, Miki Nakayama, was physically present, those in those times, people started. Thank you. To the right side. Thank you. Okay, to the left side. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Please relax your legs. And this is the last stop that I will do the explanation. And this place is called the Memorial Hall. And this building is meant for those deceased who believed in this faith and devoted themselves to the development of the Tenrikyo teachings. And whoever wishes to be enshrined here can be enshrined if they are followers. The reason why we divide shrines into three is simply because to distinguish whose name is written in the shrines. And before I explain which shrine is which, I would like to explain how we regard the deceased in this faith. I explained it at the main sanctuary, but our soul comes back to this life. So the soul does not be enshrined here. Rather, this place is just simply have the names of the deceased, and those are written in small books and put it inside of those wooden shrines. And the purpose of having this place is to come here to recall the memories of the deceased and show your sense of gratitude because of those people, people who we are now is who we are. So over here we just recall the memories of the people who passed away and remind ourselves to become like them, to follow the footsteps of our predecessors. That's the purpose of this place. If you go to the Buddhist temple, or maybe if you visit the people's house who believe in Buddhist, they have shrines, home shrines as well. And their shrine enshrines actually the souls of people. So they believe that during a certain time of the year, their ancestor soul comes back to their home shrine. So they have a ritual to make a horse or cows by using the eggplants or something like that. They're cute, by the way. In Tenrikyo teachings, we do not have that kind of a ritual because I explained it earlier. We believe that there's no soul here. Instead, we come here to say thank you to our grandpa, grandma, and mother and father. In the center, we enshrine the memories of the Nakayama families and the descendants. The eldest son of the Nakayama family has been serving as the leader of the Tenrikyo faith since the time of Oyasama, Miki Nakayama. Now we have the fourth leader in the generation, and the leader of Tenrikyo is entitled as the Shinbashira. Shinbashira is like a carpenter words in Japanese term, and Shin means true, maybe true, and Hashira is a pillar. So true pillar, or you could also say center pillar, is the meaning of the Shinbashira. But anyway, Shinbashira is the leader of Tenrikyo faith, and now from the first to the third Shinbashira, their names are enshrined in the center. And on the right hand side, that is the shrine for the let's say executive staff ministers of the Tenrikyo Church headquarters. kind of long titles, but they are the ministers who are allowed to perform the service around the main sanctuary. So getting inside the inner sanctuary is kind of special status for them, and also performing, actually chosen as the 10 performers to perform the Kagura service, or the service for universal salvation, which is conducted every 26th of the month. Those performers are enshrined on the right hand side. And the one on the left is the shrine for any followers who wish to be enshrined. My mother passed away 10 years ago, and her name is enshrined out there as well. So whenever I come here, I bow to this shrine longer than other two, because I can't really relate myself to those big names and stuff. So I'm very common person. But anyway, that's the purpose of this place. And Memorial Hall, memory, especially although we believe the reincarnation, we come back to this world. We believe that we come back to this world. So when one passes away, we always say pass away 4 rivers. So I believe that my mother as well has been already reborn, I believe, I wish to believe, and I'm guessing that maybe my mom's soul is in her, because she's really kind of, she doesn't listen to me. But Tenrikyo followers usually try to have fun to guess like who's soul in who. So there's no proof for it, but that's one of the fun things that we can do. Okay, any questions?
You said that her family didn't agree. When did they start to become immersive?
In the very early era, those who opposed Miki Nakayama were like elder people. So her husband including. So like by then, Miki Nakayama's mother-in-law or father-in-law already passed away. So they were actually her husband and relatives. Those are kind of I referred to as the Nakayamas. So her children, Shuji, actually Miki Nakayama had 6 children, and out of 6, 2 passed away, but 4 remained, and all of them became to believe in whatever Miki Nakayama teaches. So that's actually the generation which started to follow the faith.
What happened? So before she became the Shrine of God, what happened to her, like her mind and who she was then?
Okay, it's really a critical question, and even among Tenrikyo followers, it's very controversial, because once she became the Shrine of God, it is said that her mind or the personal feelings and stuff all disappeared. That's what we explained. But if you read the record of words and the behaviors and actions, there are parts that still sounds like she's holding a conversation between herself and God. So nobody can really say that she had like a way of thinking before she became the Shrine of God. So some old followers say that, although I said her divine model is 50 years after she became the Shrine of God, but instead of say 50, some of the old followers say 90 years of her life, which is the complete physical life of Miki Nakayama. So some old followers say that no, her divine model is 90 years length. But it's really kind of difficult question to answer properly. I mean, not properly, but correctly. So some still say that her mind stayed, but theoretically, her mind is not hers. So even if it looks like or sounds like she's maintaining her personal feelings and stuff, it could be also the mind or part of the divine mind, God's mind and stuff. Kinda, I can't really explain. Sorry. Okay. Huh? Mirror. In the history of Tenrikyo, especially after the Meiji Revolution, Tenrikyo needed to disguise itself as like a part of other religion, Shinto religion. Otherwise, the government's oppression was so severe that they were about to be disbanded. So back then, the first Shinbasha actually decided to belong to the Shinto so that they can protect the faith. But during that time, Tenrikyo also, borrowed so many decorations and styles and rituals. So most of the stuff you see is pretty kind of similar to the ones that you can see in the Shinto shrines. So if you have a chance to go visit like the Ise Grand Shrines or some other bigger Shinto shrines, then like those stands, stands and offering trays, those are all from the Shintos, and the mirror including is also like from the Shinto. So I don't know, I can't really explain the significance of it, but in the teachings of Tenrikyo, there is a mention to the mirror, and mirror, we say whoever you have around you is a mirror of your mind. So if you see someone who's really mean, then part of your mind, which is kind of mean, is reflected on that person. If you see the good people, then I'm a good person. You can say that. So the mirror is there is a mention to the teachings about the mirror. So. Good. This tour has been kind of long. Usually I cut this short within an hour, so since you are very nice listeners. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's all for. And also, she married into the wealthy farmer of the Nakayama. And Nakayama family lives actually in the place where we just went, around the main sanctuary. And that Nakayama was known as very wealthy and known as good people in the area. But when foundress Miki Nakayama became age of 41, her eldest son Shuji became ill on his leg. I forgot which one, probably left leg. And in order to help her son, the Nakayamas tried their best to see a doctor, and any doctor could not help their son. So they asked I don't even know how to call them, but the Buddhist monks. They are known as people who make prayers to Buddhist gods or Shinto gods, and ask them to cure the ill condition on the body. So the Nakayamas asked one of those monks to come over their house and started the incantation to call God into someone's body and ask the intention of the god who is causing the ill condition. And during that incantation, somehow the lady, who's usually become the medium of the god's incantation, was absent. So Miki Nakayama was chosen as the person who received the soul of God. And the monk who actually initiated the incantation just simply thought that things does not last so long. Maybe one word or two from God through the mouth of Miki Nakayama, then everything should be all right. That's actually the initial intention of the whole procedure. But somehow, because of the great intention of God the Parent, God the Parent, Tenrikyo no Mikoto, got into the body of Miki Nakayama, and she became the shrine of God and started to deliver the words of God the Parent, Tenrikyo no Mikoto, and that's how Tenrikyo started, which was in 1838. So it's been almost 180 years. This year is Tenrikyo 177th, eighth year. So 2 more years, then we reach 180 years in the history. But anyway, when that happens, nobody in the Nakayama family believed that she became the shrine of God. Shrine of God, which means the God itself entered the body of Miki Nakayama. And Miki Nakayama became actually the container of God. So inside of her is nothing but God. So whatever she speaks, whatever she tells, everything was the message and the words of God. But nobody could understand that back then. And as I mentioned earlier, the time and the place were like before Japan's society turned into the modern society. So people still believe that like people get haunted by evil spirits, or some raccoons or the fox in Japanese tradition. They believe that those animals also can deceive the people and make them fail to function properly. So the Nakayama's family believed that Miki Nakayama was haunted by ghosts and stuff. And even her husband tried to chase out the ghosts by showing the sword against Miki Nakayama and told if it's evil spirits, then please leave the body of Miki Nakayama. So from the beginning, Tenrikyo faced in great difficulty, and the teachings was started only by one woman, and her name is Miki Nakayama. And as I mentioned earlier, as I explained, nobody believed her. Even her family members did not believe her. So first 20 to 30 years of the history in this teachings, there was no follower. And even, let's say, no follower, and Miki Nakayama started to give away all the belongings of herself. Her intention was, without knowing the mind of poverty, we cannot save the poor. So she started to give away the belongings that she brought from her original house, but also at the same time she started to give away the wealth and the treasures of the Nakayamas as well. And back then in Japanese society, family is very important. So the Nakayama, the family, is very important to people who belong to the Nakayama. Especially the head of the Nakayama family he is actually her husband, and he's like let's say his like a pride or his reputation is all based on the family's wealth and family's like treasures and stuff. But Miki Nakayama, as a wife, she started to give up those things. And also back then, the status of the women were very low, and even the wife of the wealthy farmer, still it was kind of really against common sense back then to give out the belongings of her husbands. So because of that, not only her family but also relatives or the neighborhood villagers, nobody really believed her. So first 20 to 30 years, the let's say her life was really full of difficulty. Then after 20 or 30 years later, Miki Nakayama started to show some miraculous salvations through granting the safe childbirth. Back then, women lost their lives by giving births, quite a great percentage. It was really high percentage. According to the statistics, it said that like 3 women out of 10 lost their lives because of the delivery of the child. So giving birth to a child is a really important role of women, but also at the same time it was a really life-threatening job. So those who are kind of afraid of giving birth to a child came to see Miki Nakayama, and she started to grant the like a permission to have a safe childbirth. And back then it was really interesting, but in a Japanese old tradition, pregnant women supposed to follow these rules and that rule. One of the rules was like the pregnant women have to sleep with a very high pillow, which is very uncomfortable to sleep on. But women back then were forced to follow that kind of unreasonable traditions. But Miki Nakayama, once she started to grant safe childbirth, permission to have a safe childbirth, she started to tell people that they did not have to follow the kind of tradition that does not make sense. Instead, just take these 3 packages of the sacred powder. Back then that was a powder, but now it's a sacred rice. But she started to give out the sacred powder, and which is actually, I don't think it was a flour, but powder, rice powder actually. And that was actually the powder granted like the blessings of God the parent. But anyway, she started to give out those things. Then miraculously, women who believed totally in the teachings of Miki Nakayama, they started to have the nice, very safe childbirth. Even during the earthquake, it said that one of the Miki Nakayama's daughter gave birth to a healthy boy. So the effectiveness of the workings of God was very vivid, and people around her started to come to see Miki Nakayama as a goddess of like a safe childbirth. So in this teachings, actually a Tenrikyo teaching started with saving women in the very beginning. And at one point, people asked whether or not Miki Nakayama can save other illness as well. Then she said yes. So that's how Tenrikyo faith spread throughout Japan, and also now, even nowadays, there are followers overseas as well. So that's how Tenrikyo started, and how Miki Nakayama started to help save people. And because her salvation work actually bore fruits of so many people coming to see her, there are doctors and priests, or Buddhist priests or some Shinto priests as well. Those people thought that Miki Nakayama took their patients or their followers. So they started to come to the Nakayamas, and they started to attack or blame Miki Nakayama, saying that she's haunted. Whatever she's doing is nothing, because the name of God that she's explaining does not appear in the history book of the Japan. However, read the Nihon Shoki, the Japanese history book, oldest history book, or the Kojiki, that's the all the events volume of the record of the Japan's history. And back then, the Shinto priests insisted that if there are no mention to these two books, then whatever the deity or the divine name you mention, it's a lie or it's like a fake. So that's how they blame Miki Nakayama. And sometimes they use the violence and come to the residence and use the sword to like break stuff and like sometimes harm people as well. And even after the Meiji Revolution, do you know Meiji Revolution? That's the great transition from modern era, old samurai society into the modern society. That throughout that great transition, the old traditions were denied, and a new value was appeared in the society. But still yet, they could not explain why Miki Nakayama can save people. And also, after the revolution, government did not want people to simply gather around because the government thought that just simply gathering people look like the person in the center tried to make another revolution as well. So in order to stabilize the state of the society, the government started to put the oppression on the Tenrikyo religious activities as well. So throughout the life of our founder, Miki Nakayama, there are full of oppressions and difficulties as well. However, our foundress, Miki Nakayama, we refer her, by the way, as Oya-sama in Japanese term. Oya-sama used to be like Oya-san. That's what I heard or actually read in the book. But Oya means the parent, and san is just an honorific term. And Oya-sama is the same way. Oya is the parent, and sama is the honorific term. So I translate it as like our beloved parent. Oya-sama means our beloved parent. By the way, so Oya-sama, the life of Oya-sama is always like full of difficulties and troubles, but she never complained about the situation or the occurrence. So instead, she encouraged followers to find joy in any situation. And in this sense, the life of Oya-sama is referred to as the divine model for all followers. And she withdrew from her physical life in 1887. And that was actually 50 years later after she became the Shrine of God. So her physical existence as the Shrine of God was 50 years. And that 50 years we refer it as the divine model. And we all followers of Tenrikyo always study how she reacted to the situations and always try to nurture the mind so that we can become like in the same state of the mind that our founder Miki Nakayama was holding, so that by so doing, no matter how difficult the situation we may face, we can find the solutions by learning how to accept those difficult things. So in that sense, Tenrikyo followers are highly encouraged to study the life of Oya-sama as well. Then I skipped parts, okay. She became the Shrine of God, and I already explained what the Shrine of God means, but I didn't explain what the withdrew from physical life is. Our foundress, Miki Nakayama, before she disappeared from, not disappear, but physically disappear from the followers, she said that the body is something like, it does not last forever. And that is true to our body as well. Our body, sometimes the time will come to return it. But in her case, since her existence was very special, so of course she returned her body, but her soul remains without coming back to this world. She remains as it is and work as She exists physically present. So although we cannot see her figures here, but she still exists here. That's the meaning of I said physically withdrew from physical life. Kind of difficult to maybe understand, not understand, but accept. Kind of difficult to accept. But that's Tenrikyo teachings explain that her existence is eternal. And she always resides there. And because of that, there's a part that we serve meals and prepare bath, and also there's like a big TV screen room as well, and entertainment as well. And there are parts for our foundress, Miki Nakayama, because we believe that she exists there. So that is why I said she withdrew from physical life. And if you study the history of like Japan's contemporary religion, some religions say that I have a soul of Miki Nakayama. That's a different like a stream of Tenrikyo, like a spin out of the Tenrikyo face. But those people, whatever they say, we cannot really say that that is true, because if you study the teachings of Tenrikyo, it's clearly said that the soul of foundress Miki Nakayama is there. So that's how we regard her as ever living. And what else I'm forgetting to say? Okay, during her physical existence time, she wore the red clothes, red kimono. Do you know kimono? Right? And her kimono was pure red. And even her tabi socks was red. That's what we are told. And she started to wear the red clothes in 1874. So it's like after 30 or 35 years after she became the Shrine of God. And she did so because before she started to wear the red clothes, it is said that she was wearing the black kimono. But black kimono is kind of common back then in Japan as well. So people around her could not regard her as something special. So she told others that I wear the red clothes because it's kind of rare and bright, and that proves that I am different from others. It's easy to tell anyway. And the color red stands for the state of the mind that we should maintain. The color red stands for like a bright and a radiant mind. So if you see wear someone in a red kimono, then followers are encouraged to maintain their mind in that state, like a bright and radiant. And because she is ever living and now still existing, even nowadays Tenrikyo followers are allowed to receive three things. One is the permission to make a healing prayer, like I explained it earlier. That's the one thing. Second thing is a safe childbirth. Even nowadays you can receive the safe childbirth after the 6 months pregnancy. And in order to receive the sacred rites for the safe childbirth, you actually are not, you don't have to be a follower. Some of your friends or the families believe in Tenrikyo, then you can receive those safe childbirths. And my wife actually received 4 times throughout her delivery, and she knows really well how it works. And just for your information, I explain what that safe childbirth is. Once you apply for the, no, I don't need it. But if you wish to receive it, then you can come here and listen to the preaches of the priests. Then you can receive 3 sacred rice packages. First package is given to maintain a healthy condition of the fetus, baby in the tummy. Then the second one you take right before you go into the delivery room. And this one is actually personally kind of tricky one, I think, because okay, have you ever experienced the delivery of the baby? No? Okay, I'm not a woman, so maybe I cannot really explain very well, but even if contraction started, and 5 minutes apart, the baby does not come out. It just hurts. And my wife always, blame me. You do nothing. Just rub my back. No, not there. Here. That kind of stuff. And actually, her personality changes. She's not as sweet as she is now, and she's really scary. And the pain of the contraction is really something that even strong enough to change the personality. But the second package is when you take it, you can ask God to set the time. Until this time, please finish this delivery. Usually you cannot really estimate when or how when that happens. And usually if you go and talk to midwife, then they just see how much dilation that you have. And they just guess that, 5 more hours or 10 more hours, something like that. And it's very vague and you cannot really trust them. Well, I should say trust, but anyway, in my wife's case, she gave birth to the youngest one on January 18th. And we drove in the hospital in the morning around 5 o'clock. And at that time, we had a safe childbirth. So second package was taken. And when she takes it, then I talked to her saying, okay, let's say have this done by noon. So 7 hours. It was 5 in the morning. So, noon. Then she's complaining, no, 9 o'clock. So we negotiated between husband and wife and decided to set the hour for 4 hours. 5, 6, 7, from 5 to 9, right?
Not much
4
negotiation.
4 hours. but miraculously, the baby was born at 6:59. So 2 hours short. That was really weird. I never thought of that, Hey God, you messed up, You skipped 2 hours. That's my honest feeling. Like I was of course happy, but okay, 2 hours earlier. Then later I asked my wife, yeah, that was amazing. Then she said, I was praying for 7, yeah. So even 2 hours shorter in her prayer. So from this fact, it was proved that the prayer of the mother is stronger than husband. But that's how the sacred package works. You can set the time to finish the time of the delivery. Then the third packet can be taken after the delivery, which is actually purification of the body. Well, I can't really say purification, but the healthy recovery after giving birth. So safe childbirth consists of 3 sacred rites packages, but that's how it's taken and how it's applied to the follower. And the last one, third one that you can receive from Miki Nakayama is the amulet, which is actually the piece of her red kimono, red cloth. And nowadays she's not physically present, so we make the kimono just like we used to, but we offer it to the shrine of Miki Nakayama right in front of you and ask her to the blessings on the red kimono. And later we withdrew the kimono and cut them into pieces, and we are given the red cloth as an amulet. And that is not something that you can purchase at the Shinto shrines or any other Buddhist temples. It is something special because you can only receive it when you make pilgrimage back in here in Jiba Tenri. It's called a proof amulet. And as I mentioned earlier, the color red stands for the radiant and bright mind. So when you receive the amulet, you are asked to maintain, or actually you are asked to promise to maintain that good state of the mind. And by making efforts to maintain your mind in a good condition, then your body will be protected. That's how the proof amulet works, to protect the body of the followers of Tenrikyo. But anyway, those 3 things can be still received in here by Miki Nakayama. I think I spoke now. Any questions?
If Miki Nakayama is ever present, does that mean that her mind and like the other people is still with her? Because you mentioned that when you die, your mind is separate from the soul. But if her soul is here, is her mind?
Good question. Good question. If it's like a rule applied to the regular normal human beings, then it's separated or maybe hidden inside the soul, the function of the mind. But since Miki Nakayama has a soul of the mother of all human beings at the time of creation, that's explained in the story of creation. But her soul is something special. So since she is still existing, so her soul is regarded as like still like having a body as well. Of course, we cannot see, but like an invisible body or something. Okay, that's what she said.
So you said the place where she lives is that behind that
Yeah,
sign?
right. I think to the right-hand side there is a other section of the
And
building.
is it just like special people that can go in there?
Yeah.
Can the priests?
Yes.
Why? And she has a TV, but when she was alive, did they have TVs then?
No.
So why would she need a TV now?
That's a good question, and maybe it's easier to imagine how to take care of people. For example, once, let's say, I don't know whether you have grandma or not, but if your grandma becomes old and still weak, but still kind of healthy enough to move around by herself, and if you think you want to do something nice to your grandma, then it's not so like weird to buy her a TV or get her something nice present. And those TVs are not because she or Miki Nakayama wanted to have. It's something that your followers thought it's nice to have for her. So that's like a gift kind. Sorry.
Did you had any material physical presence from her since?
Actually no. It's said that there is a picture of her, but we followers never seen.
No, I mean
Like a remaining.
since she's just a soul here. Did you had any presence from her?
Like proof that she's still here.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the words that are given to the followers, it says that if you believe in her and see the workings, then that's the proof. And if you do not believe her and do not see the workings, then you don't have to believe that she is existing. Kind of riddle. It's a riddle, but like how to maintain the mind in a way that you believe, then you can see her working. But if you don't believe, no, she's not there, then you never be able to see. That's the like words of God. And I'm not sure whether I can apply that word to the state of Miki Nakayama now, but kind of same way.
So if you were to say like I don't believe that she's there, would that sort of be an indication that there's like dust in, like that's a dusty?
No. It's totally like a free, actually up to you how to accept like the situation, right? So if you can't believe it, then it has nothing wrong with it. And if it's needed and necessary, then we believe, Tenrikyo followers believe that things happen to you. So sometimes this could be like a myth or something, but sometimes like if you bring a little child, like my younger son's age and stuff, sometimes they say, I can see the red clothes grandma, grandma in the red clothes and stuff. I don't know whether it's a fake or not, but sometimes people say that. So even if you don't believe it, there is a chance that you see her. I don't know whether it's physically or psychologically. I don't know.
What are these guys doing?
They are serving spiritually to the Congress, and of course, if someone tried to cross over this bar and try to run to the shrine, then of course they try to stop. But of course, I heard that there is a secret button to alert. So I don't know. There might be a shutter goes on. And also, we conduct a wedding here too. And actually, my wife and I had a wedding here. And on the day of the wedding, you can allowed to walk inside the bar. And the upper stages, there is a ritual that we can take place.
How often does wedding happen here?
Quite often, like every weekend, you can, if you have a chance to pay a visit. Unfortunately, not today, but like a good season, like in June and maybe warmer seasons, you see a wedding almost every weekend.
And anyone can come?
Anyone can come. Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask in the other place as well. So let's move on to